Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. This is our video presentation for BIO330 Introduction to Ecology. Our case study is titled Toxic Legacy, the Sungai Kim Chemical Pollution Incident, which highlights one of the most critical environmental pollution events in Malaysia. Our group members are Putri Damia Zulfa, Ain Nadira, Kristina Mardia, and Umi Ayu Nafisa. To begin our presentation, let's take a closer look at the background of the incident and how it happened. The incident occurred at Sungai Kim in Pasir Gudang, Johor, an urban industrial area surrounded by chemical factories, schools, and residential zones. On 7 March 2019, illegal chemical dumping was reported in the river. The chemicals include benzene, acrolein, toluene, acrylonitrile, and other volatile organic compounds. These substances react with heat and water, releasing toxic fumes into the air and contaminating the river. As a result, an emergency was declared. Over 100 schools were closed and cleanup operations were initiated by government agencies. Now that we have understood the basic timeline and response, let's identify the key problems that these incidents happened. This incident brought to light several major issues. The main issue was the illegal disposal of toxic chemicals into Sungai Kim, which led to serious air and water contamination. This revealed a broader lack of enforcement of environmental law, particularly the Environmental Quality Act 1974. Industrial waste was not properly monitored and oversight was weak. In addition, the emergency response from the authorities was slow and uncoordinated, partly due to poor collaboration between federal and state governments. The environmental impact was severe as the river ecosystem was contaminated, posing risks to water quality and aquatic biodiversity. On the human side, over 2,700 people, including residents, teachers, and students, reported symptoms like nausea, dizziness, and breathing difficulties after inhaling toxic fumes. This case clearly highlights failures in environmental management, emergency planning, and public safety protections. Now that we have identified the key problems, let's take a closer look at the scientific and environmental aspect of the incidents, which will be presented by Ain.
Now, we will look into the scientific aspects of the Sungai Kim chemical pollution incident. Firstly, regarding toxic chemical exposure, chemicals illegally dumped into the river reacted with sunlight and other substances, producing hazardous toxic gases. The main exposure route was through inhalation of airborne gases, which spread from the contaminated river area to nearby schools and residential zones, affecting the health of thousands. Reported symptoms included headache, nausea, vomiting, along with eye and throat irritation, and breathing difficulties such as chest tightness. Then, let's look at the environmental evidence from this disaster. The community impact was severe. Around 6,000 residents were affected, and 2,775 people were hospitalized due to exposure to the toxic gas. Several schools in Pasir Gudang had to be shut down because of the health risk posed by the airborne chemical fumes. The scale of pollution was immense. The case was declared the worst toxic disaster in Malaysia, involving the illegal dumping of 900 tons of chemical waste. This incident also exposed regulatory failures, including weak enforcement of industrial waste laws and poor environmental governance. For the clean-up operation, authorities had to use 1,500 tons of river water to help flush out and reduce the contamination in the river. Figure 1 shows the hazmat team conducting on-site investigation during the chemical waste pollution incident at Sungai Kim. This image was sourced from the New Straits Times 2023. Figure 2 shows a map from News Herald Malaysia 2019 highlighting how the toxic gas spread in 3 waves. Next, the stakeholder and policy analysis will be presented by Christina.
Now, I will explain the key stakeholders involved in the Sungai Kim Kim incident, starting with the government agencies. Firstly, the Department of Environment (DOE) played a major role. They were responsible for investigating the pollution source and enforcing the Environmental Quality Act 1974. Next, the Ministry of Health (MOH) deployed medical teams and managed the hospitalization of those affected. The Ministry of Education (MOE) responded by ordering the closure of schools to protect students and staff. Lastly, local authorities such as the Pasir Gudang City Council and the Johor State Government coordinated the emergency response, helped with the cleanup and communicate with the local residents. Besides government agencies, other important stakeholders including illegal waste disposal operators and industrial players. The illegal operators were believed to have dumped the toxic waste directly into Sungai Kim Kim. Meanwhile, some factories or industrial companies may have indirectly contributed by not following hazardous waste regulations. On the public side, residents and students were the most affected. Many suffered from breathing issue, nausea, or other symptoms. Also, NGOs and environmental advocates help raise public awareness and push for accountability and changes in environmental policies. Moving on to the environmental laws and policies involved. The main law was the Environmental Quality Act 1974. This act controls pollution in Malaysia and is enforced by the DOE. Important sections include Section 24, which prohibits river pollution, and Section 34B, which bans illegal toxic waste dumping. However, this act has some weaknesses, such as low penalties and slow enforcement. There is also National Policy on the Environment 2002. This policy promotes sustainable development and encourages the polluter pays principle, but it is not legally enforceable. It serves more as a guideline rather than a strict law. That's all from me, and now let's hear it from Ayu about the solution and recommendation.
Lastly, we continue with solution and recommendation. First, strengthen legal framework and enforcement. Stricter enforcement of environmental law is essential. Penalties under Environmental Quality Acts should be enhanced to include heavier fine imposition and mandatory corporate accountability. Companies, not just drivers, must be held liable for toxic dumping, covering clean-up and health costs. Second, update industrial waste management. Mandating real-time discharge monitoring in high-risk factories can reduce unreported waste disposal. Facilities must adopt their control system, perimeter bonds, and emergency containment structure to meet Department of Environment (DOE) standard. And 3. Community engagement and transparency. Launching mobile apps for anonymously waste dumping report and training local school and community in emergency response can boost public vigilance. Also, transparency in enforcement action and regular update on river quality can help restore public trust.